Dak Prescott will not be getting a stimulus check this year. Instead, he will be getting $75 million. Welcome to Fantasy Football. Today, we will talk about the Dak Prescott signing, although we did drop a bonus pod for you last night. Hope you enjoyed that one. But Dave is here, and Dave will get to weigh in on Dak Prescott. We will talk about some other news and notes from around the NFL, team needs in the AFC, and a segment called Let's Not Forget. Let's not forget Christian Kirk had a 5-game stretch with 6 touchdown catches. 2 games later, Kyler Murray re-injured his shoulder and was not the same rest of the season, and neither was Kirk. Christian Kirk currently wide receiver 61 in NFC ADP. All right, Jamey and I are back. You heard us hopefully in the bonus pod, just 5-minute episode on FFT and 5 as well. Dave, good morning to you. Are you happy about Dak Prescott being back with Dallas?
I'm happy for him, and I think it's kind of cool that someone got one over on Jerry Jones. And maybe we could say that a lot of people have gotten over on Jerry Jones when it comes to contracts, Zeke being chief among them. But if they had signed him last year before Deshaun Watson's deal, he probably would have been like right around 35 million per year on average. And now he's up to 40. And this is after, breaking his ankle and barely playing in 2020. So expectations are high. Happy for Dak that he's getting paid crazy bank. And now we got to see if he can just keep up what he's been doing in fantasy for a while.
Let's get some rankings out. Jamey, where did you settle on Prescott for now?
4th.
Okay, so that's Mahomes 1, and then what? Allen 2.
Mahomes, Allen, Lamar, Dak 4.
Okay, Dave?
I got him 6th, but there's going to be so much movement in the top 6 at quarterback that I think that there's a chance that he can end up as high as 2nd by the time we get to the season.
Right.
Ooh, another franchise tag just happened.
Oh, who?
Taylor Moton.
Okay.
Yeah.
Panthers tackle.
Yeah, talk about getting the bag.
All right, so throw that in the news and notes segment. Something interesting about Dak Prescott, he's been very consistent in terms of rushing yards per game. He's around 18 or so rushing yards per game. He'll get you around 300 rushing yards. Very consistent touchdown rate. And that's something that, Aaron Rodgers just had, like a 9% touchdown rate. This is the touchdown rate for Dak Prescott in 5 seasons. 5%, 4.5, 4.2, 5%, 4.1. So you wonder, and he's just thrown more and more every year. His attempts, 459, 490, 526, 596. And then last year in the first 4 games of the season, he was averaging 50.3 pass attempts per game. He was not, he was not going to throw 800 times or anything like that. But, they've just trusted him more with the offense. But if you get a season where he has like a 7% touchdown rate, just an outlier season, you just wonder what that could look like for him. I don't know how much time we have to spend on this. I mean, you guys talk about it as much as you want, but Dave, why 6th, I guess? Why coming out a little low on someone who 2 years in a row has been in 4-point per passing touchdown leagues, top 2 per game, and I think top 4 per game in 6-point?
Because I'm not sure if he's going to keep up what you're saying. I think that there is room for him to fade a little bit now that he has gotten paid. And I like the other quarterbacks upside a little bit more, assuming their situations stay the same. And I'm sure we'll talk about that, especially with Buffalo today. But Arizona, if they keep doing what they're doing and they keep improving like they're doing, and they add a receiver that'll hurt Christian Kirk and maybe impact DeAndre Hopkins, that'll help Kyler Murray. Deshaun, we just don't know where he's going, but I know he's a damn good football player who puts up huge numbers in his own right. So it's the trepidation of him coming back to earth after getting paid, and he's coming back from an injury. And I think that matters a little bit too.
Okay.
Probably matters more than getting paid, to be honest.
I wonder what would happen for the top 6 to change. Not the order, but the big 6. Should we call it that?
Sure.
Yeah. All right. Big 6.
You could call it the pick 6.
The pick 6. That's so much better.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to do that with quarterbacks. I don't know if I want my fantasy quarterback to be
But we're picking from these 6.
I
know what pick 6 means, but I'm just saying.
I think it's clever. I think it's funny. All right, pick the pick 6 here of Mahomes. Ooh, I got to get used to that. Mahomes,
you can
Allen
go with Super 6.
All right, we'll work it. How about
We'll
the
work on it.
listeners? The listeners can come up for the 6-pack, whatever you think.
That's what it should be.
Refer to these top 6 quarterbacks: Mahomes, Allen, Prescott, Jackson, Kyler Murray, Deshaun Watson. Jamey, what's it going to take for someone to get into the 6-pack and bump someone in that group down to 7 or something? Like, can you see a scenario where Herbert or Rodgers or Hurts, somebody jumps into the top 6?
Yeah, it's not necessarily so much somebody jumping in. It's Deshaun Watson saying he's going to sit it out until the Texans trade him, or he gets traded to a really bad situation where there's a rebuild or just a lack of receivers, or you're just not sold on him being better than, let's say, Rodgers, who's coming off an MVP season and was the number 1 fantasy quarterback, or like the 3 young guys you mentioned of Herbert, Burrow, and Jalen Hurts, those 3 guys, or, people just fall in love with Trevor Lawrence and they, end up drafting a guy, signing a guy, signing 2 guys, maybe, receiver and Hunter Henry, let's say, and then they end up drafting a receiver and just really reloading this receiving core, so it's more so, I think, the Deshaun Watson situation of him falling out, or maybe Russell Wilson gets traded.
Yeah. Okay. So that was, I needed to mention that because that's the big flaw here is Russell Wilson. He's actually in the 7-pack for Heath. Wilson is 6th for Heath, and Watson is 7th, where you guys have Wilson 9th. So, and if you look at NFC ADP, let me read you ADP right now. Mahomes, Josh Allen, Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson, Herbert 5, Rodgers 6, Watson 7, Prescott 8. So I'm not sure. I don't know if we still have a 6-pack, but I do think that Mahomes, Allen, Prescott, Jackson, Kyler, Watson, I think that's going to be a pretty consistent top 6 for a lot of people in some order. Heath has Russell Wilson in there ahead of Watson. Some people might go, I really don't feel like fantasy analysts are going to have Aaron Rodgers, as crazy as that sounds, in their top 6, but
you never know.
I don't know that many. I only know like 3 fantasy analysts. I guess 4 now with Chris. I got to branch
you
out.
You talk to Ben Gretsch anymore?
Ben's a gambling guy now.
You have guests on that
Yeah, we'll ask them.
I was just on Chris Harris's show. We talked about you a little bit.
Talked about me?
Yeah, your infatuation of him.
With Chris Harris? I have an infatuation?
You don't remember?
Not really.
That you thought he was, bulked up guy because he worked out a lot?
Oh, he's ripped. Yeah. Yeah, no, he could definitely kick my ass. All right, some questions real quick. Would you rather have...
That microphone would kick your ass.
Would you rather have Dak Prescott, Ezekiel Elliott, Amari Cooper, and CeeDee Lamb, the awesome foursome of the Cowboys, or the Vikings guys? Cousins, Cook, Jefferson, Thielen, or Dak, Zeke, Cooper, Lamb?
Are you talking about for fantasy or for real life?
For fantasy. You got a downgraded quarterback with the Vikings, but you got an upgraded running back in theory.
Last night.
What'd you say?
You changed it from last night.
I did. I put the quarterbacks in, yeah.
Put the quarterbacks.
I would rather have the Vikings group. I'll stream
with
quarterbacks.
I'll take the Cowboys.
Okay, would you rather have Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb or Matt Ryan and Calvin Ridley?
Prescott and Lamb.
Yeah, I think I'd go that route.
Would you rather have Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott or Patrick Mahomes and Clyde Edwards-Helaire?
Cowboys.
Mahomes.
You said Mahomes, Jamey?
Yeah.
Okay, this is the only one that I have a Twitter poll for, and Mahomes, Edwards-Helaire, 62%. Dak and Zeke, 38%. That's interesting. I was going to go Dak and Zeke.
That's what I would.
Yeah. Dave, we're wrong, I guess. Everyone thinks we're dumb. Well, we're not dumb because we have Paramount Plus. And if you don't, you're making a big mistake. Incredible options, live sports, great movies, great TV shows. It's on Paramount Plus. It's live right now. It's streaming right now. So go ahead and get it. Really, really inexpensive as well, by the way. Live sports, breaking news, a mountain of entertainment. You can go from game night to movie night with Paramount Plus. Stream iconic movies like The Godfather, Indiana Jones, Mission Impossible. New episodes of critically acclaimed original series like Star Trek Picard, The Good Fight, and The Stand. And get this, it's where you can dive into live sports from CBS Sports. We've got the NFL, March Madness coming up. By the way, stay tuned for our bracket challenge info. The Masters, Champions League Soccer, all of this on Paramount Plus hit shows from CBS, Nickelodeon, MTV, BET, Smithsonian Channel, Comedy Central. That's live sports, breaking news, a mountain of entertainment. Paramount Plus is streaming now. Team needs is today's topic. Instead of going through every team, I asked you guys just to pick a few teams that you think have a very fantasy relevant need. And Dave, you went with 3 teams that need a running back. The Bills, the Steelers, and the Jets. The Bills, the Steelers, and the Jets. So my question to you, Dave, is if there's a running back out there, a free agent that you really like, or a guy in the NFL draft, a rookie, which team do you want? Rank those 3, I guess, in order of your fantasy preference. Bills, Steelers, Jets.
Steelers would be first. I kind of don't want the Bills to do anything at running back. I know that their general manager talked about it. Sean McDermott's talked about it. They want to get better at running the football, but I kind of want things to stay exactly as they are in Buffalo. Let this thing keep running through Josh Allen and let those targets rack up for the pass catchers there. But I'm a little nervous that they are going to add a running back there. I'm hoping it's a big splash, either in the draft or free agency, so that running back becomes fantasy relevant, even if it hurts the other options in Buffalo to a degree. Jets would be third. Jets are the one where I'd be surprised, just knowing the track record of how the San Francisco guys have thought about the running back position through the years, that they would go and spend big on one running back, whereas they can always find 2 or 3 guys, mix and match them, and have the run game work that way.
All right, Jamey, same question to you. There's a running back out there that you like. You have these 3 choices for the destination: the Bills, the Steelers, and the Jets. Where are you going?
Yeah, Jets will be one by far.
Wow.
I think, as we've seen, they have spent money on running backs, which hasn't exactly worked out for them. So maybe they don't go that route, but they spent big on Jerick McKinnon a couple years ago. They spent on Tevin Coleman when the market was basically average for what his deal was. That's a team that's got to address that position in a big way, because I don't think LaMichael Pirine is an every down guy, or at least a featured every down guy. So the Steelers, I think, would be second, and then the Bills would be third. I think Dave said it best. Let those guys get a chance to sort of prove themselves. I think Zach Moss is going to be the better of the 2 over Devin Singletary, but it wouldn't be surprising if they just brought in a veteran to sort of help those 2 guys. But the Jets, I think, have the chance. The Jets starting running back has a chance to be a starting fantasy running back in 2021.
I think that would be the case if they did spend on free agency and they wound up with Aaron Jones.
With their
sure, right, yeah. It's same thing that I said with the Bills. Like if they go and they draft ETN or if they get Najee Harris, then I think that type of spend, whether it's draft capital or free agency capital, would force them to use that guy 60+% of the time. You brought up McKinnon and Tevin Coleman. I would say that those guys are reasons why they wouldn't spend big.
Yeah, but I mean, you said that they haven't done it before, but they have.
Yeah, and they messed up doing so. So maybe they've learned from that mistake.
So is the ownership for the Jets. I mean, getting Le'Veon Bell.
That's true. And that's we'll see what they do. Obviously, if Aaron Jones goes there, I don't think that he would be in a 40-40-20 timeshare with 2 other running backs. I think he would be the featured guy. And yeah, the offensive line is definitely coming around. It's going to get better. But I don't see them doing that, so that's why I didn't rank them first.
Yeah, so Dave went Steelers, Bills, Jets. Jamey went Jets, Steelers, Bills. Very different orders there. One thing I like about the Steelers is Mike Tomlin just has a tried and true track record. Ooh, that was a lot of tease of running these guys into the ground. I mean, he likes a workhorse feature back. And even James Conner, his first 5, week 1, he left with an injury. The next 5 games, he was really good. He was on pace for 285 carries and 42 catches. And then things went kind of downhill. They started throwing the ball a ton. They stopped running the ball. They couldn't run the ball. Offensive line is not what it used to be in Pittsburgh. Maybe it has sort of expired.
Neither is the quarterback.
Neither is the quarterback. But his track record is so good with running backs. He loves to have one guy. Even when he says every year, "Hey, we're going to split carries. We're going to get other guys involved," he lies all the time. That's what they do in Pittsburgh. So, Jamey, I was just surprised that you went Jets over Steelers.
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious to see what the Steelers will do if they bring in a guy. You're hearing a lot of Najee Harris there, which I think would be fantastic.
Yes,
and then that would be the number one team of this trio.
Well, I guess that was my question. I said, you get to choose the running back. Where do you want him to go? Where's the best spot for Aaron Jones or Najee Harris or Travis Etienne or those three guys.
Okay, yeah, then Steelers will be 1, Jets will be 2, Bills will be 3.
And let's make it clear, we're only looking at the AFC here. We're not talking about Atlanta.
Well, we're only looking at these three teams, actually.
Oh, okay. Even better.
The Bills, in the last 3 years since Josh Allen's been there, 2018, Buffalo running back scored 4 rushing touchdowns. 2019, 4 rushing touchdowns. 2020, 8 rushing touchdowns. 2 of them were by Antonio Williams in week 17. So that's, if you eliminate those, and remember Josh Allen came out of that game, that's 4, 4, and 6 rushing touchdowns for Bills running backs in their last 3 seasons. But they've actually had opportunities. They've just been really bad. Zach Moss had 8 carries inside the 5-yard line and scored twice. The year before that, Frank Gore had 11 carries inside the 5-yard line and scored twice. So it's so interesting. If they bring in a good running back who can convert, Josh Allen maybe won't have, 7 to 9 rushing touchdowns for a 4th straight season.
He might only have 5. Bust.
Yeah, like he had 9 carries inside the 5-yard line. And he scored 7 times. So much more efficient. Now, I don't know. I didn't do the breakdown of he had 6 from the 1 and Zach Moss was running from the 4 every time. I don't know that, but just looking at inside the 5-yard line, Zach Moss, 8 carries, 2 touchdowns. Josh Allen, 9 carries, 7 touchdowns. All right, we're going to go to Jamey's team needs now. Raiders, wide receiver. Dolphins need a running back and a wide receiver. We're going to do that in just a second. Right now, I want to tell you about Grammarly Premium. Something I have, something you should use. An awesome, very helpful way to help you with your writing. A few months ago, a friend of mine was applying for a job. He sent me his cover letter, and it was not very good. He was not going to get the job. He didn't anyway, but that has nothing to do with the cover letter. It just was a mess. So I have Grammarly Premium. I took the cover letter, I uploaded it right to Grammarly Premium, and you can, by the way, have this too, and you can get 20% off Grammarly Premium with going to Grammarly.com/FFT, Grammarly.com/FFT. Anyway, I put the cover letter into Grammarly Premium, made it much, much better. Grammarly fixed the grammar mistake. I didn't even notice it. Got rid of some unnecessary words to make it more clear and effective. Grammarly suggested some better vocabulary. So it just spruced the whole thing up, made it a little bit shorter, better communication, and so easy to do. And you don't have to listen to every suggestion, but you probably will, because they give great suggestions with Grammarly Premium. Easy to use and makes your writing so much better. And you can use it for work, you can use it for school, you can use it for personal products. Don't just say it. Make a statement with clear, flawless text that's sure to impress. Grammarly does not just correct your mistakes, it helps you build up your skills as a writer. You can elevate your writing with 20% off Grammarly Premium by signing up at Grammarly.com/FFT. That's 20% off Grammarly Premium, Grammarly.com/FFT. Elevate your writing again, 20% off Grammarly Premium at Grammarly.com/FFT. All right, Jamey, so you've got a lot of teams that need a wide receiver. I'll do the same thing I did with Dave here. So you have the Raiders need a receiver, the Dolphins, the Patriots, and the Jets. Now you get to pick of all those beautiful wide receivers in free agency in the NFL draft. Out of the Raiders, Dolphins, Patriots, and Jets, how would you rank those four for a wide receiver destination?
The Jets will be one just because of the blank slate that I think they're going to have, whether it's Sam Darnold with a new coaching staff or a new quarterback in place. I will put the Dolphins second, the Patriots third, and the Raiders fourth.
Okay. Jets, Dolphins, Patriots, Raiders, you said?
Yep.
Okay. Dave, how about you?
I think all 4 of these teams have a number 1 receiver opening. So it would come down to which teams are the pass heaviest and which ones have the best quarterback. These teams don't have really great quarterbacks. Maybe Carr certainly might be the best of the bunch. Depends on who the Jets get. I think I'm going to agree that the Jets are the best. I'm going to put the Dolphins next. I'll put the Raiders third and the Patriots stone last.
Why are the Jets the best? Just because they don't have
opportunity, the opportunity, and if it's Darnold or if it's Justin Fields or Wilson, they'll have a good quarterback option there.
Where did you put the Raiders, Jamey? You put them last?
I put them last just because I think, with what they have already in place, if they make a splash, which, you've heard Juju maybe as a potential option for them, we'll see if they're in the Corey Davis market, if they're in the Curtis Samuel market, the guys that aren't going to get tagged and have the chance to be free, aside from Juju, or if they do spend another draft pick on somebody. But you look at what they're missing right now, and they're just missing a number one guy. I think Henry Ruggs is going to end up being a decent number two. Bryan Edwards could be a decent number three. They have the tight end already in place with Darren Waller. So, and you've heard already Mike Mayock come out and say that they'd like to have Nelson Aguilar back, which could obviously happen as well. So I just don't view Nelson Aguilar as a number one receiver.
No, but he had a really good year. I mean,
he did
896 yards and 8 touchdowns on only 82 targets. So that's why I thought maybe that would be a more like he's not there and you get a better wide receiver. If they can get that out of Nelson Aguilar, I don't know. I guess I just don't want anybody to go to the Patriots. Everything could change.
But they're obviously they made the move to start rebuilding their offensive line.
Right.
By the trade that they had this morning to get Trent Brown back. You're going to get, hopefully, they have, third most cap space in the NFL. So they can spend. It's just a matter. It's why I look at the Jets and the Patriots in somewhat of a similar light, is they have a blank slate right now. You can redo your mistake or, correct your mistakes from the previous season, or in the case of the Jets, previous seasons. Now, for the Jets, they may keep Sam Darnold, but again, losing Adam Gase, getting a better coaching staff, getting some better talent around him, I think will help Sam Darnold maybe live up to the expectations of what he was when he was drafted. So to me, I think those guys are in similar spots, but I do like the Jets situation a little bit better because at least you know what Sam Darnold is. He's better than Jarrett Stidham and he's better than Cam Newton if they decide to go that route again.
What do you make of the Dolphins receiving core right now, guys?
It's all right. I think Devontae Parker isn't going to be that number one stud. The only time he ever was with Ryan Fitzpatrick under center. And Ryan Fitzpatrick looks like he's going to continue playing probably elsewhere. And we think that Tua is going to stay in Miami, just like, Jamey laid out the case that the Jets are going to keep Sam Darnold. If Tua is the quarterback, I don't think he'll be quite as good. And there's already talk about if they keep Tua and they still have their third overall pick, that could be a receiver. And that receiver is going to be somebody like Chase or Waddle or Smith in the draft. And that guy's going to be better on day one than Devontae Parker. And he'll be the number one receiver in that offense. And so it limits Parker. And I don't think Preston Williams has just been too inconsistent to be relied upon as a reliable receiver in that offense. And I'm not sure if there's really anybody else there that can be special, helpful, useful in fantasy.
Did you
I don't
mention
see it.
Gesicki?
I'm not including Gesicki.
Okay.
I think Gesicki can be good.
Yeah. Jamey,
they are getting, Hearns and Wilson back, if they decide to keep them. The two guys who opted out.
Yeah.
You mentioned the Dolphins also as a good spot for a running back. And Myles Gaskin had 41 catches in 10 games. And weeks 3 through 8, he was on pace for 200. This is when he was really getting his feature work before he missed 4 games with an injury. On pace for 269 carries and 64 catches. So they show that they will use these guys in the passing game. And so I guess if the Steelers were number one based on those 3 teams that Dave listed, Bills, Steelers, Jets, would the Dolphins be ahead of the Steelers?
Yes.
Dave?
I don't think. Yeah, they might be. I was going to say no, but then you just think about it, that if they already gave whoever their lead back was in a given week, that person, Gaskins, Ahmed, whoever, had like 60% of the work at a minimum. And if they go and they make a move to bring in Aaron Jones or they draft Najee Harris or Travis Etienne, then that guy's going to have more, I would imagine. Again, it's the whole free agent capital, the draft capital. What did the team give up to get this player? And it's going to be a lot, so they want to use them. I think that there would be a chance that whoever that running back would be like 70%. And the offensive line has a chance to be one of the 12 best in football. And I'm not sure we can say that about the Steelers. I think that they'll be run focused. So yeah, I think the Dolphins are the best.
They just got a gift last night, an absolute gift with Isaiah Wilson. If he can play and they can resurrect him. You're talking about the 29th overall pick from last year's draft who had a falling out with the Titans and they got him for a 7th round pick. I mean, it's just, that may take them out of the the Sewell conversation at 3. It may take them out of, going offensive line in the first round. And now you have your choice to play with adding a wide receiver, adding a running back with their 2 first-round picks, or trading down and still, accomplishing that goal. If they don't want to take Chase or Smith, they can get Waddle maybe a little bit later in the top 10 and still get a superstar caliber wide receiver. And then they can come back in with their second first-round pick, and the running backs will almost certainly be on the table, one of the 2. And so if they don't make a splash in free agency, which, again, we talked about this yesterday, Aaron Jones rumor is clearly out there. This is going to be an offense that gets upgraded to whatever level. We'll see. But I do think the backfield gets upgraded. Now, the flip side of that is we saw Myles Gaskin was a pretty good fantasy option. So if they don't go that route and they don't go address that position, then, Gaskin is a certainly a capable number 2 running back with number 1 upside, especially in PPR.
Think about this, by the way, in the NFL draft. The top 10 could conceivably will have 1 left tackle, as Jamey just mentioned. Maybe 5 quarterbacks. I'll say 4. Maybe 3 wide receivers and a tight end. I mean, there's a possibility that all 10 picks are offensive players.
Yeah.
Isn't that nuts?
Well, you're hearing a lot from the draft guys that it's a terrible defensive draft, just in terms of what the talent is at the top. There's going to be a lot of guys that are clearly NFL caliber players, and probably 1 or 2 Hall of Famers come out of this that we just don't expect going into it right away. But it is very top heavy on the offensive side, mostly at the skill player position and the quarterbacks.
How awesome is that for us, right?
I don't know who,
huge.
It might have been Daniel Jeremiah who tweeted it yesterday that said, if you ask, player personnel people around the league, the one guy who seems like a surefire Hall of Famer right now is Kyle Pitts. And he could be a difference maker in just how the draft unfolds. If he goes in the top 5, which would be unprecedented, but it'd be interesting to see.
From my perspective, just personal thing here. I don't recall seeing a wide receiver as good as Devontae Smith. I'm just blown away by him, and I know he's
the guy who may go ahead of him is Jamar Chase.
Well, look, I'm looking at our prospects. Yeah, no, Jamar Chase is terrific. I haven't seen him play in a year because he opted out. But I'm looking at the CBSSports.com prospect rankings. All of the top 10 players, except for Micah Parsons of Penn State, he's the only defensive player in the top 10. But Jamar Chase is number 3, and Jalen Waddle is number 8, and Devontae Smith is number 9. So he could be the 3rd wide receiver off the board because he's 175 pounds. And the only comparison that people make is Marvin Harrison, a very similar height and weight in college. But that's the only one. I mean, he's very small for a wide receiver, or, a guy that you want to be your number 1 franchise wide receiver. But my God, is he amazing. I just couldn't believe how good he was. So I'm interested to see how he does in the NFL. I'm so excited for him on the next level. And the fact that there are 2 wide receivers that could go ahead of him tells you how good Jamar Chase and Jalen Waddle could be, because Devontae Smith just won the Heisman Trophy, and he had 200 yards in the national championship game, and he left with an injury. It was insane.
It's absolutely fascinating for the Dolphins because you have the chance to pair Tua with 2 guys that he knows in Smith and Waddle, or give him the guy who might be better than both those guys in Jamar Chase. And so it's just if they stay at 3, it's again, with the Wilson trade, probably tells you what they're going to do. But who knows? Maybe they want to go another offensive lineman and just completely dominate that position, which they could.
If the Dolphins don't take Sewell at 3, then they seem like the most likely team to trade down, right?
And they could still get another receiver.
Right,
if they
exactly.
go from 3 to 6, presumably they'd trade with the team.
You're hearing a lot of Carolina moving up.
Right. Carolina moves up to get their quarterback, but that would be 8 then. I think they could still get one of those receivers
for sure.
Pitts at 8 pretty easily.
Right. NFL draft is going to be so fun this year. Cannot wait. Jamey says these teams need a tight end. The Chargers, the Titans, the Patriots, the Jets, the Bengals, and the Jaguars. Chargers, Titans, Patriots, Jets, Bengals, Jaguars. Where do you want to see a tight end, a free agent tight end, a Hunter Henry or something like that go?
Well, I think, you've seen what, the tight end can do for the Chargers. Now, we didn't see a huge season for Hunter Henry. We didn't see a huge season for Jonnu Smith either, but both those guys certainly have the potential, those teams have the potential to, lean on those guys. The Titans tight end group was not bad, in the games where Jonnu didn't show up or was hurt. They still got production there, and Ryan Tannehill's track record with tight end is pretty good. The Patriots and Jets, I would say the same thing. It's kind of incomplete. Same thing with the Jaguars. We just don't know what the rest of the receiving core is going to look like in some of those situations. And for the Jets and the Patriots, the quarterback situation. So they're all kind of wide open, in my opinion. If I knew the quarterback for the Jets and the Patriots, I'd be a little bit more inclined to lean those two teams, especially the Jets, just because, you want to talk about track record of offensive systems. If LaFleur takes Kyle Shanahan's blueprint, that could be really good. I'd love to see Jonnu Smith or Hunter Henry end up with the Jets.
Man, I know you have a Yankees hat because you wore it yesterday, but like, when are you getting your Jets jersey?
We'll see what they do.
If you were going to get a Jets jersey of one player, current, former, who would it be?
So I have a buddy who is a diehard Jets fan, and so just to tie in the Yankees, the reason I was wearing the Yankees hat was because my older son, is on the Yankees Little League team. Well, my middle son, his team is the A's, and we had a little uniform snafu where they didn't show up on time because of some of the weather situation that was going on in the country. So for the first game, the kids didn't all have their uniforms. So some of the kids had to wear just green shirts. So my buddy, who's a Jets fan, his son was wearing a Sam Darnold shirt. And he said, I should probably just have him wear the Darnold, because he had a great first game. He's 4 years old. He said, I should probably have him wear the Darnold shirt the entire season. To which somebody else said, shouldn't you probably get him an upgraded jersey? And I said, if I was a Jets fan, the only jerseys I would get right now would be Namath, Toon, or McNeil.
I can't believe you said that, because Al Toon would definitely be the guy I would get. I think
my youth, obviously, as a Dolphins fan growing up, those Dolphins Jets games were epic.
They were great.
They were, in the 30s almost every week. Marino and Ken O'Brien going back and forth, and Al Toon and Wesley Walker and Mark Duper and Mark Clayton. Those were, like, in my opinion, the four best receivers I'd ever seen, because I was a little guy. So it was just fun to watch those two teams go back and forth.
Yeah, I was a little bit later, like more into the early 90s, when we would go to the Dolphins-Jets games all the time. But my brother had an Al Toon jersey, and I thought his name was very funny. So, Dave, one Jets player, you can have his jersey.
Favre.
And my 2-year-old has a book that has Joe Klecko in it, and he loves Joe Klecko, and it's so funny. And he says, "Want be Joe Klecko," and then he tackles me. And
not Gastineau?
No, Gastineau's not in the book. Joe Klecko,
What?
the New York Sack Exchange, is in the book. All right, we're going to take a break here. When we come back, we will read Jets 101 aloud to you and go through news and notes and do a segment called Let's Not Forget. Let's Not Forget. We'll be right back on Fantasy Football Today. Just learning now that Mark Gastineau was also in the New York Sack Exchange. He is pictured in the book, but not labeled. Hey, dude, I was not born. When was that?
That was in the 80s.
Early 80s?
Probably mid-80s, I would guess.
Okay. I was born in 84.
There's got to be somebody in the book wearing number 99.
Yeah, I think he's in the picture with the New York Sack Exchange. Yeah, but they love Klecko. I don't know what to tell you. All right, so anyway, let's do the news and notes. Philadelphia owner Jeffrey Lurie wants the team to prioritize Jalen Hurts, make him successful rather than set up a quarterback competition. So I think that's reassuring, certainly if you have Jalen Hurts. This is what Ravens GM Eric DeCosta said about Gus Edwards. He said he'll be on the Ravens this year, quote, one way or another, end quote. Dave, could Gus Edwards really have a big impact on J.K. Dobbins?
Yes, he could take numbers away from Dobbins pretty easily. We've seen that as recently as like their last few games of 2020. And it makes perfect sense. The Ravens are a very good running team. Why would they get away from that? They've got 3 guys that are awesome at it. Gus is one of them. And that's going to take work away from J.K. Dobbins. And it sucks because J.K. Dobbins is awesome. And I want him to have 35 touches a game. And he would probably be like a fantasy MVP if that were to happen. But it's not going to happen because of Gus. Thanks, Gus.
Franchise tag stuff. The Jets franchise safety Marcus May. The Giants are going to franchise defensive tackle Leonard Williams. Pete Prisco has him as his number 2 free agent in his top 100. Other stuff, Ryan Fitzpatrick, been conflicting reports, but the latest one is that he plans to play in 2021. And the 2 offensive lineman moves from overnight or this morning. The Dolphins acquired Isaiah Wilson. That's what Jamey was talking about. He was a first-round pick for the Titans. He's had all sorts of off-field issues. and they gave up on him already, and the Dolphins got him for basically nothing. Remember, the Dolphins got Laramie Tunsil for a lot more than that. I think it was like the 15th pick or something, but they gambled on a guy who had, I don't know, some character concerns. You remember the gas mask picture for Tunsil, whatever, but he fell to them. That worked out pretty well. Maybe they can strike.
Well, Flores and Isaiah Wilson, they went to the same high school, not the same time, obviously, but and according to reports, the Dolphins were in on Wilson last year in the draft. So this is very, if you follow Flores and obviously coming from the Patriots, this is a very Patriots-like type move. Go get a guy who's got a bad track record or bad situation and see if you can resurrect him. And hopefully for Isaiah Wilson's case, the Dolphins will do that.
And hopefully for Trent Brown, he can have his career resurrected by going back to the Patriots. They reacquired him from the Raiders. Trent Brown, offensive tackle. They got him and a 7th-round pick in 2022 for a 5th-round pick in 2022. Seattle released Carlos Dunlap. He was very good for them last year, helped their defense for sure. They'll try to re-sign him at a lower number. And
you're going to hear a lot of that.
Yes.
In the coming week or so.
Right.
Veterans that are cut because of their cap, not because of their play.
And Washington franchise tagged guard Brandon Scherf. Let's not forget. All right. I got 5 let's not forgets here. Things that are easy to forget throughout the course of a season. Christian Kirk.
Forget-me-nots?
Forget-me-nots, sure. Christian Kirk had 6 touchdown catches in a 5-game stretch. This is the one I teased at the top of the show. He was coming on. I mean, look, his yards weren't great necessarily in those games. 19 yards, then 78, 86, 37, and 123. But he was a big play guy and fantasy relevant for sure. And then 2 games later, Kyler Murray re-injured his shoulder, and that was really it for downfield passing for a while anyway, and for Christian Kirk. He is the 61st wide receiver off the board in NFC drafts right now, 166th overall. Jamey, are we forgetting about Christian Kirk? I know you were excited about him during that stretch.
I think if he ends up staying in his job as the number 2 wide receiver, you should be excited about Christian Kirk because there still is plenty of upside, especially entering his 3rd season. But as Dave sort of alluded to, there is a chance the Cardinals are going to upgrade over Christian Kirk. Either they're not comfortable with him, they want to make him the 3rd receiver. They have to eventually replace Larry Fitzgerald, who still hasn't made a decision if he's going to play. And so if they are heavily invested in the wide receiver market, draft, or free agency, that tells you where Christian Kirk is going to fall. If not, Christian Kirk's in a great spot, will be a great value pick. 61st off the board would be fantastic. If you get him as your 4th wide receiver, which I think is where he'll be drafted in redraft leagues at this point, you should be thrilled about that.
Didn't they already try to replace him, kind of try and replace him in the 2019 draft when they took 3 wide receivers and then all 3 of them didn't pan out, or at least one of them?
At that point, they had no receivers.
2. Sure, I guess. I think he's a talented receiver.
To replace Fitzgerald eventually, excuse me.
That's true. He's a solid receiver. He'll be good 20% of the time in fantasy. That's what his track record has been. He literally has to stay in this role, and he has to get better in it in order to be anything better than a bench receiver in fantasy.
Would you rather have Christian Kirk or Michael Gallup as it stands right now?
Pretty sure I have Gallup ranked higher.
Yeah.
All right. Let's not forget, and this is probably something that nobody knew because who would even bother looking at this, but Rashard Higgins, he was 2nd in the NFL in yards per target behind only Will Fuller. Now, he had just 52 targets, so you have to keep that in mind, but 11.5 yards per target and a 71.2% catch rate. That's really good and pretty similar to what Higgins did in 2018 with 53 targets, 10.8 yards per target. It was 11.5 last year, and a 73.6% catch rate. I guess I'm saying you could make the case that Rashard Higgins is kind of a sleeper as a talent based on those yards per target and catch rate. And let's not forget, and this one you might have known, 9 games without Odell Beckham, he had more yards than Jarvis Landry. And Landry had 22 more targets. Landry had a lot more catches, but he had 521 yards, and Higgins had 32 catches for 546 yards. So how about that? He is wide receiver 78 right now in NFC ADP. Obviously, David, depends on what happens with Beckham. They said they want to bring him back, and they would say they basically want to have the same receiving core. But I don't know. I thought it was interesting. Higgins was a little underrated, I think, when Beckham got hurt.
There's a report from Adam Schefter that Tom Brady wants Odell Beckham in Tampa.
Why not?
So if he leaves the Browns, first of all, imagine that. Imagine him replacing Chris Godwin. I guess that would be the case in Tampa. That would be something. And then if that does happen where Beckham leaves, Higgins would have an opportunity to be an every down player, be potentially the number one outside receiver in that Cleveland offense. Yeah, sure. There's a chance that he could be absolutely worth a late round pick in fantasy to be maybe even as high as a number 3 receiver, maybe a number 3 receiver in PPR and even like half PPR leagues.
I mean, he could also end up going to a better place too if he decides to leave Cleveland as a free agent and ends up maybe the team that's going to throw the ball more. Maybe with a team that's going to have, not that Baker was a bad quarterback last year, but better quarterback play. So Higgins has his choice. We'll see if he can parlay the season that he had into, whatever free agent money is out there for him. It's probably tough to expect that, knowing that the draft is so deep and he's not of the upper echelon of talents. But if he stays in Cleveland and he does get a bigger role, then sure, he's going to end up being a decent, late round super sleeper type of player.
I just want to tell you all, from a mathematical standpoint, 6 catches per game would be a 96 catch pace. So keep that in mind. And let's not forget, in 8 of the 9 games that both Daniel Jones and Sterling Shepard were healthy, Shepard had at least 6 catches. In 8 of the 9 games, he was.
You want to bring this up yesterday when we were talking about Daniel Jones?
I thought we had just enough Daniel Jones yesterday, so had to get some in today's show.
And we've already had enough today.
The only exception for Sterling Shepard, well, this isn't about Daniel Jones, it's about Sterling Shepard. The only exception in his 9 healthy games was the Arizona game in Week 14. And if you recall, probably don't, let's not forget, Daniel Jones should not. People say he shouldn't have played that game. He was not healthy. So basically, he was 6 catches per game or more, Sterling Shepard, every time he and Jones were healthy. And in 2019, he averaged 5.7 catches per game. So,
how would Sterling Shepard have done with Jameis Winston?
That I don't think he would be a good fit with Jameis Winston.
No. But I love that this is an AFC team needs podcast and we got to the Giants.
We're past the team needs. This is nothing.
Oh, okay. This is just the free form section.
I forgot that with the Cardinals too, but that's okay.
Dave, this is let's not forget. This is the let's not forget. Let's not forget that.
Yeah, we never forget about the Giants.
In the past 2 years, that's such BS. It's like I have to do a podcast for 31 teams because when I bring up the Giants, you give me crap. All right. Anyway,
this is why I do it, for that reaction right there.
My point is Sterling Shepard's been kind of a catch machine. 2 years in a row, and
yes,
needs to be mentioned.
Consistently mention that when we talk about mid-round PPR receivers to start loading up your bench with. He's that guy.
We do not consistently mention that.
Almost every time when we get to that type of receiver, Sterling Shepard, his picture is next to PPR quality bench receiver in the fantasy football glossary.
Okay, he's wide receiver 55 in ADP right now.
No, it's great. Fantastic value.
I'm not doing any more Giants talk for at least a month. Swagger, no more Giants. I don't care if they sign.
Tomorrow's NFC team needs.
I don't care if they sign 6 huge free agents and cut Saquon Barkley. We're not talking about them until April. Kenyan Drake, let's not
Adam,
forget.
what Giants jersey do you wish you had in your closet?
I guess Manning. The 3 jerseys that I've owned in my life are Rodney Hampton, Jason Sehorn, and Odell Beckham. So
that's worked out well for those guys.
Always like I jinx them. I bonanza them. Absolutely. All right.
Don't get a Pitts jersey, please.
Okay. I won't. He's a Gator.
Oh man.
All right. Kenyan Drake
jersey, but you drop it.
Let's not forget. Kenyan Drake's 27 years old, so he still could have a couple of good years left. He has 2 50-catch seasons. And he's always been a pretty good, sometimes very good yards per carry guy. And he was averaging 4.3 yards per carry before his ankle injury in Week 7. And let's not forget that in 2019, he was a total stud with the Cardinals. Last year, not as much because Kyler Murray stole all his touchdowns basically in the first half of the year. This is sort of inspired by a conversation we had yesterday. But Dave, I'll open it up to you. Are we forgetting that Kenyan Drake is not far removed from being a pretty exciting fantasy prospect? I don't think people are that excited about him now.
I don't think people are excited about him. I almost feel like he's the new Todd Gurley, where he's got potential to do well. He had 10 rushing touchdowns last year. And you know that he's got a shot at 1,000 total yards pretty easily if he's in an opportunity that allows him to score a bunch of touchdowns, get some decent carries, get some good work in. But he's just not popular. And it's because he's old and because last
old,
year
though.
wasn't great.
It's not old.
He's old compared to where you would like your running backs to be.
Well, that's
you
kind
want
of
your running backs to be young. You don't want them to be the closer they are to 30 or even to 28. The more you're like,
that's
get
the number,
them away
though.
from me.
That's the number. Remember, because we did the dynasty exercise last week.
I thought it was 26, not
26
27.
was the number that had.
Right, and he's older than 26.
Hold on. 26 was the number. Let's talk about the Giants, Dave. No, 26 was the number that had the most top 5 finishes. 26 was the peak, but we still saw good years up to 28. You don't really want. There are exceptions, obviously, but you don't really want running backs that are 29 or older. But he's 27, so I still think he might have a year or two, left in him. And
it's possible.
Let's not forget he has 250 catch seasons. That's an important thing too, is they just didn't use him in that role last year.
Sure. But he still finished 25th in PPR points per game. And if he doesn't get re-signed by Arizona, that's 2 teams now that have said bye-bye to him. And where's he going where he can be a full-time back? Is Atlanta going to open the doors for him? Maybe, if he's cheap. That could be the thing. That could be the thing that works in his favor, is that he might be willing to take a cheap 1-year deal compared to Aaron Jones or Chris Carson and land in a good opportunity. And that could make him palatable for fantasy.
I think all these running backs not named Aaron Jones are probably getting smaller deals. Maybe Chris Carson gets a mid-level type of situation, but with the salary cap being what it is and that position being what it is, I think these guys are all going to end up taking, whether it's a 1-year situation or, a cheaper, 2-3 year deal. So he can go to Seattle and replace Chris Carson. That would be a good landing spot for him. He could stay in Arizona. I mean, they may decide they want to just run it back again and give him a 1-year situation. That would be a good situation, good scenario for him. He could be the guy in Pittsburgh or the Jets, some of the teams that we talked about, that they decide to add a veteran like Kenyan Drake, who's not too old, not too broken down, but still has the chance to be a starting caliber running back in the NFL and would end up being a decent fantasy option. So wherever Kenyan Drake ends up is going to be interesting to see. But if he goes to, let's say, if he goes to Buffalo, that's awful for all 3 of those guys.
Yeah, that's really good.
Right.
You could see a situation like that.
And I think even if he does end up in a great situation, I don't think people are going to find themselves reaching for Kenyan Drake on draft day. He'll be more of a settle for type of RB2.
Okay, finally, let's not forget O.J. Howard. In his 4 games, had 146 yards. It's not a ton, but 2 touchdowns, only 19 targets. He was on pace for 76 targets. Obviously, that's not going to get it done, but he found the end zone, and he was pretty good. And O.J. Howard averaged 13.3 yards per catch. How does that measure up? That's really good. Travis Kelce just set a career high at 13.5 yards per catch. O.J. Howard set a career low at 13.3 yards per catch. He still continues to be at the tight end position, a big playmaker. Mark Andrews has been at 16.2, 13.3, and 12.1 yards per catch. O.J. Howard, I'm assuming, better than Andrews throughout his career, probably pretty close. So Howard's going to be, it seems like, an elite yards per catch guy. He showed it again. He was a lot better than Rob Gronkowski in the 4 games that they played together. He had about twice as many yards, not quite, but not far from it. And 5 more targets. So, Jamey, O.J. Howard right now is tight end 28. Gronkowski is tight end 19. It's not a great situation if they're both there, but talk to me about O.J. Howard, obviously rehabbing from a very serious injury as well.
That's the thing. What's the health? Coming off an Achilles, can you still be explosive? He's not going to be featured in this offense, even if Gronk decides to retire again. It's just not the case. I think even if Cameron Brate were still to stay there. So, it kind of goes back to the same thing we've said about O.J. Howard for the last couple of seasons, really, since Bruce Arians went to Tampa. Set him free. Let him go somewhere else and see if he can flourish somewhere else. It just isn't the right scenario for him. He did have some good moments last year, like you said. Maybe it was the start of something for him. But coming off the injury in this offense with all these weapons, I just don't see him having the upside of what some of these other younger tight ends may have, and maybe even some of the veteran guys still. So if the reports are positive, maybe take a flyer on him as a second tight end if your rosters are deep enough. But I just can't see him, unless he's 100% healthy and Gronk is gone, having a breakout season in 2021.
What's the cap shape for the Bucs? I know that Brady might be restructuring so that gives them some
they have
room.
Space. I mean, they've talked about bringing everybody back if they can. Depending on what
they've got some serious free agents that they want to bring back. Godwin is one of them. They can save $6 million and take a $0 cap hit if they let O.J. Howard go. That's probably what I think is going to happen if Gronk decides to play.
Free him. Yes. Let OJ Howard cook. I do want to see him somewhere else. I'm so curious about what his career could be like. I feel like this has been one of the most untapped potential players. That's really, I could have found a better way to. Grammarly, this is one of the most underused players that we've seen in a long time. I would love
to put him on
it.
the Chargers or the Bengals
Or the Colts.
Giants.
The Giants. Yeah, they should sign Howard and draft Pitts and keep.
Maybe they have a tight end.
13 personnel.
But if they had that, if they did all those things, we wouldn't talk about them because this is a 31-team show going forward. Let's not forget, people. There are 6 conference tournaments, 6 chances to win $10,000. You can fill out one conference bracket or all of them. It's up to you. Conferences we have: ACC, Big 10, Big 12, Pac-12, SEC, Big East. You can create a pool with your friends or fill out brackets for your chance to win $10,000 on the CBS Sports app. $10,000. Just go to the CBS Sports app or cbssports.com/conference. And my friendly piece of advice to you: do not pick the Miami Hurricanes to win the ACC.
Do not pick them to win anything.
That is the extent of my college basketball knowledge. There you go. Good show today, guys. Thank you very much. Let's not forget, we have another episode coming up on Thursday, and we have 5 episodes of FFT and 5 for the foreseeable future. Emery Hunt is going to join me on the Thursday and Friday editions to break down some NFL draft prospects. We're going to do quarterbacks this week, and really, really looking forward to that. For Dave and Jamey and Ben, I'm Adam. Talk to you on Thursday on Fantasy Football Today.
Want more of the Fantasy Football Today podcast and nonstop year-round fantasy advice? It's simple. Hit the subscribe button and hang with us all throughout the year.